everyone. This is Elaine Dusetzina, evokestrong.com. Welcome to another episode of Health Transformation Stories. Happy Valentine's Day, and hope you are all sharing the love, not just with others, but especially with yourself, because that's what we're going to be talking about today, and it's about self-compassion, self-love. My guest today, her name's Christina Hope Justice. She is an intuitive empath and a holistic health coach. She went on a journey of emotional healing, which strengthened her overall health and well-being. So before I bring her in, I'm going to go ahead and let you know, remind you that you're also a part of this conversation as much as we are. You're most welcome to leave comments, ask questions, and give us some hearts and likes, and also feel free to share this broadcast with your friends and family, someone who you may think may benefit from it. All right, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring her in. I'm going to change my screen here, and here's Christina. Welcome, Christina. Thanks for taking the time out and sharing your story with us today. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Most definitely. So I always like to start by going back in time, and you provided some information about that with me already, and it goes back to all the way when you were 4 years old. And so let's start with that. Let's start with what happened at that time in your life.
Well, my mom walked out when I was 4, and I remember that vividly. And I just remember that moment being, my life has changed forever. My life will never be the same. Because my mom, it wasn't perfect, but she was the most loving person in my life. And she protected me from, the rest of the family who wasn't as loving. But then I remember, as far as the health journey goes, my personal feelings about myself, it even goes back before that, just being an unwanted pregnancy back in the 70s, and having all this negativity coming.
Hey, oh no, we got cut off. 1 second here. One second, I got cut off. Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, wait a second here. It cut off a second. Did you call me back or end up calling you back?
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me? You're frozen.
I can hear you, but I can't.
Uh-oh. Okay. Can you hear me right now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I think you're good.
I just can't see you at all.
Oh, you can't see me, but I can see you. So that's what matters. Hold on. I can still see you.
That does matter.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Okay, so.
Can you see me or no?
No, I can't see you, but that's okay. I mean, as long as, you think it's okay on your end.
Yeah, I can see you fine. And then I can see myself on the screen, of course. But not sure why you can't see me.
Yeah, that's weird.
So it just cut off for a second. It paused right, just right from the beginning. So it talked about.
Okay, so just start where I left off.
Yeah, because it just cut right off.
Just feeling that energy coming at me, those emotions coming at me that were very negative. I didn't feel loved as a baby or an infant. My mom was, she had her own issues, which, I kind of absorbed. In fact, she left, she walked out, and I did go visit her thanks to my grandmother. I visited her in summertime, once in a while, and I remember another memory when I was about 5, standing in the mirror and sticking out my stomach and
Mm.
asking her if I was fat.
Mm.
And she told me, no, you're just perfect. You're just right. And it's, I think it's interesting because we have memories that stick out. And, so many days go by. Why would that one memory stick out? It's a meaning. There's a meaning. There's a reason why we have those core memories. This memory sticks out because it was a defining moment in one's life. And my mom was always obsessed about her weight. She was always taking diet pills and, just complaining about being fat. And, she's never skinny enough. And, as a young girl, that made an impression on me, you know. And, my family life wasn't supportive. I didn't have a high self-esteem. I wasn't, encouraged as a child. So, this feeling that my mom had, was a major feeling that I adopted because that was there. And, growing up, like I said, didn't have a lot of self-esteem, but it wasn't until middle school that I have body image issues that really I began to manifest. Boys would call me thunder thighs or whatever. It's not that I was a chubby child. I've always had a pear shape, and I always will. And then later on in high school, I had experiences. I got involved with a boy, and I got pregnant at age 15, and after having the baby, I wasn't huge. I look back on pictures of myself. I wasn't really a big person, but I still had these body image issues, and I had tried starving myself in high school, and so that was my way. I didn't know anything about nutrition. I didn't really know about food, so it was diet pills or starvation were all that I knew about losing weight. And then after some years, I was married and I had my own children, and again was thinking about losing weight. My youngest child was about 2 when I got back down to a healthy, what I felt was healthy weight. Although, I only use that term now. At the time, it was just I needed to be skinny. I wanted to be skinny or a certain size or a certain, number on the scale. But I never did it healthy. And then my mother died, and that was at a time when I had, confused spiritual beliefs, and the only way that I would ever see her again was if I were in part of this cult that I had been a part of. So I went into this major depression, and I had seen a therapist for my feelings, and their method of treating grief was to medicate, So I got on some medications that I believe now may have disrupted my hormones, and then certainly increased my appetite. So it was probably 2002 or 3 that I gained about 70 pounds in just a few months, and I got up to quite a hefty size, and I stayed there. And I was very depressed and very emotionally just not well for about 7 years. And then the child that I had given up for adoption at 16 was going to come visit me, and I didn't want to be fat, so I lost about 20 pounds, and I felt like I looked pretty good. And I had a picture taken of me with my family while we were out. And when I saw the picture, I was mortified. I just couldn't believe how big I was. I couldn't see it for myself. I pretty much avoided mirrors as it was. And so at that time, I decided, okay, I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to learn how to, there was a nutritionist I was following, or there was an author I was following who made cookbooks. I really didn't know how to cook. Like I said, I didn't know much about food. I was making hamburger helper for my family and such. So this person who made the cookbook, her name's Leanne Ely, and she's Saving Dinner. She was trying to get people back to the dinner table as a family. So I was using her cookbook to learn how to cook. I'd not been taught how to cook as a young person. So as I was learning how to cook, she paired up with a nutritionist who created a a diet plan that was an elimination diet to help you resolve certain symptoms that you might have, which I had migraines, I've always had joint pain, I had, my skin was not clear, and, I had sleep issues, and, I had emotional issues, anxiety and depression. So, are you still there? You can hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening.
So I just can't see you, so.
Yeah, I understand.
So after, deciding, okay, I'm going to join this program, in about, it was like a 6 or 8 week program. I wasn't really very disciplined when it came to it, but I did, this is something I had never done before, and I felt results immediately. My headaches and my joint pain and my skin, they all started to, like, the symptoms started to reduce, and I felt much better. And I also lost a little bit of weight. And so, getting into this was so that I could lose weight, but then when I followed the program, so much more happened that it was just mind-opening for me. I realized, oh wait, food has a great effect on my life. So I went through the program again, and this time I did a little better, but it became a lifestyle for me. I realized I had a leaky gut, and there were certain foods that that triggered my inflammation. And, I, again, had this awakening, this understanding that food is medicine, and also the opposite. So, I can use food. And at this time, it was several years after having gotten on these antidepressants, and it was just, with these, medications. And I need to use caution because, when it comes to mental illness, I have a totally different mindset or idea of what mental illness really is. But yet, if you challenge the mainstream narrative, it can get you in a lot of trouble. But I am a living testimony that I was able to heal my mind and my body and my spirit, with just changing the things I was doing every day, what I was putting into my body. So, at that time, realizing that food is having such a big impact on my life, I realized if I can get rid of my migraines and my joint pain, and I can sleep better, and I can clear up my face, and I can lose weight with food, then maybe I can also get my mind back and get off these medications. It was just so burdensome. I was on up to 12 at one time. And so this began in like 2009, and I had lost 86 pounds in about 9 months. And I felt great. I felt great. I was right before I turned 40. I was healthier than I'd ever been in my life. It was right before my 20-year reunion, so that was a real bonus. And so I went to my 20-year reunion. I hadn't been back there in 20 years, and I looked the best I'd ever looked, and I felt the best I'd ever looked. And then I came home, and the experience there was painful in a way, just because of the experience I had with the child that I'd given up for adoption, who was now an adult, and we had these certain painful interactions. So when I came home, at that time I had been, after I lost the weight, I was also, I kind of have to backtrack a little bit. I'd been teaching yoga and Pilates even while I was fat for the previous, since about 2002, so for about 10 years. But then when I lost the weight, I also started lifting weights. I started weightlifting, to really tighten up my body. And because I have a very athletic build, I was just kind of exploring what that would look like, if I were to, possibly compete in either a fitness competition or, do an Ironman marathon. Right. I really was like getting physical. I was taking my fitness to the next level after having just, been doing water aerobics and Pilates and yoga, sort of taking it from gentle to a little more challenging. So at that time, I was in the best shape ever. And I took my children to an event that had been, we were invited to go to from the spiritual religious group that we were involved in. So we weren't really invited to many things very much because it was just me and my children. My spouse was not a part of that. And I really didn't want to go, but I said yes when I really wanted to say no, and I had to work later that night, and I injured myself. With a disc. And I knew at that moment that I should call somebody to cover for me.
Mm.
But I did it anyway, and I went to work after injuring myself, and it was at work that the injury became permanent. I herniated a disc
Mm.
while at work, and that just totally my life. The brakes went on to my life, just screeched to a halt because I experienced so much pain, and then the trying to going to the doctor when you have a chronic an injury like that, and they ask you what's your pain on a scale from 1 to 10. I couldn't even answer that question because I know now that the reason why that question caused me so much pain is because I'd been dissociated from my body for most of my life, you
Mm.
know, and I just this pain was forcing me to acknowledge my body and to be in my body, and I just couldn't. It was too painful. So I tried to not go on to any opiates for like the first year, and then it just got to be unbearable. I still tried to not take any painkillers, and still continue my schedule. I was on a religious schedule, a work schedule, my children's schedule.
Mm.
Because there was no time for me. I was at the gym from 5 in the morning for 5 hours, doing my workout and then teaching classes. And even after I hurt myself, I continued to try and teach, and then I actually have a Facebook memory today that I went to the gym. The injury happened in December. I'm back at the gym in February, and I herniated another disc.
Do you think all of that, going to the gym, working out, um, it all went back? Is it all because of the, like, still that image, the body image that you have of yourself, that you didn't want to go back to that time in your life where you thought that, you said that you thought you were fat. So is that what you think drove you to keep just working out and um, just not pay attention to the pain that you're feeling because you just don't want to have to deal with, like, having that image of your body that you don't like?
Most definitely. Most
Mm-hmm.
definitely. I mean, I was so self-abusive.
Mm.
I lived with, everybody in my life was abusive, but
Mm.
I was more abusive than they were. And I just was, my biggest fear after injuring myself was, oh my God, I don't want to gain weight,
Mm.
you know? And, from where I am now, I have gained 50 pounds in the last year, but I also became a mother again. So I'm
Mm.
nursing, I have a
Congratulations.
child, a baby, I'm 46 years old.
Mm.
I love my body now more than I ever have in my life, and I'm beautiful. My body is voluptuous, and it's huge, and it's just beautiful, which is so different from the way I felt before.
Mm.
My body was my worst enemy. I hated myself so much, and you know, that injury, that was 2011.
Mm.
This is 8 years ago, almost 7 years ago. So that really, my life before that was just unconscious. The 2011 to 2013, when I was trying to, my body was inviting me to come in and take care of it. Um, I was in resistance, but then, finally I started to pay attention to myself. Actually, I had a client who, was having issues. Every time I trained someone, it was like they want to make their body look like something, but we would always run into, why can't you not eat those things? Why
Mm.
can't you, what is it that prevents someone from eating in a way that's optimal for their body, for their health, or whatever? It was always the feelings, the emotions. So I was like, okay, try a mirror exercise. This client, I said, look in the mirror and say the things to yourself that you want your mom to say to you. Like, I love you, you're beautiful,
Mm.
and I don't remember the exact exercise, but I wrote it out for her and I gave it to her. And as a coach myself, and just the kind of person I am, I can't ask someone else to do something that I haven't done myself, or
Mm.
that I'm not able or willing to do. So I went to my mirror and I looked in my eyes and I tried to say those things to myself, and I just crushed. I just cracked.
Mm.
I realized, just everything started to, become clear to me that this issue that I'm having is a self-love issue. And, I need to love myself just as I am. There's a lot of beautiful things now on the internet since this has happened, but at the time that this happened for me, those types of meditations or mantras of, just loving yourself as you are never came into my experience,
Mm.
So that was really a big, profound moment for me, and it caused me to, really start making changes emotionally, saying no, setting boundaries on people, like saying, no, I'm not going to go to the meeting and sit for 2 hours twice a week, and, to a seminar or whatever. I'm not going to do things for other people if I don't feel good, and I'm not going to feel bad about it,
Mm.
and I'm not going to clean the house. I'm going to hire somebody to help me, I just started setting boundaries, small boundaries in that way. And, my worst fear that I didn't even realize was a fear was that, people wouldn't accept that from me. It just started, my life started to fall apart. I started to, realize that the people I was surrounded by, I was trying to please people who could not be pleased. And that's where it gets like really complex. But
Mm-hmm. So when you started to want to love yourself, the people you were surrounded by, um, you realized that they weren't really happy with what they were seeing.
that's true. It was like, this behavior isn't loving.
Mm.
This behavior that I said this to myself. This behavior that I'm doing to myself is not loving.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, you know, I'm not. I don't. It's not okay with me if you behave this way towards me.
Right.
And it was like, what do you mean? What are you
Mm.
talking about? And then it was like, there's something wrong with me for setting boundary. Like I'm crazy or saying that this isn't okay, that I want, that this is not loving. This is the kind of love I want. I want the kind of love that is supportive and empathic and understanding and kind. And it's like, well, that kind of love doesn't exist. And I was like, I can't believe I just heard that. Like, yes,
Mm.
I know it exists. It's like, okay, that's it. That's the threshold. That's the line, because that kind of love exists in me. That's the kind of love that I've been giving to everybody. And you're telling me that kind of love doesn't exist? I know that it exists because it's in me, and I'm just not around the people who can reflect that back to me. So, you know, many of my relationships ended, and it was excruciating. It was excruciatingly painful, but now I'm surrounded by people and, who can give that kind of love and support back to me.
Mm-hmm. So when you started being true to yourself, then the ones who weren't true to you pretty much disappeared, and now you found the people who are there to support and love you for who you are and who you believe that what you stand for and what you believe. So I want to go into that, to like your support system, like like your environment now, like how did that come about for you? So you mentioned that the relationships that you had before, they pretty much went away and they were gone, and that was a shift in your life for you again, it seemed like. So and then now you're in a different space.
Absolutely. Well, in a nutshell, I mean, I was married for 20 years. I married very young,
Mm.
and I had children very young. And I married someone older, and I was a part of a belief system. My spirituality also ties into this, because as an intuitive empath, I'm able to feel and also understand things about other people, especially their emotions. Like I can feel people's feelings, and I
Mm.
know that might sound absurd to people, but it's like almost a telepathy. It is telepathy. So I I feel people's anger. I feel people's feelings, and then with my childhood trauma, I would bring that out and say, oh, I wouldn't say it directly like you feel angry, but it would be like sort of indirect, like I'm trying to figure out, what's going on with this person, and they would just tell me, no, that's not true. What you're perceiving is not true. I'm fine,
Mm.
which, I'm writing an ebook right now about how dishonest our society is. We are emotionally dishonest with
Mm.
ourselves and with the world around us, and that's caused me a lot of trauma. But to make the point clear is I was also, this way when I was a child, and I felt what I thought at the time was spirit. I felt this feeling of spirit, just God come over me when I was praying at about 8 years old, and I told my aunt what I had felt, and she told me that was the Holy Spirit and I needed to go to church.
Mm.
So I went to all kinds of churches and I explored spirituality and church, and I just never found it until when I was 19. I was introduced to a particular cult who appealed to my desire for the earth to become a paradise with peace between all humans, all races and animals, and everlasting life. So, becoming a part of this cult was Bible based, and they said that a man and a woman should be together forever. That God hates a divorce. So when I entered into this contract with this other person who was my spouse for more than 20 years, I had just this idea, and that's just all I knew, is that it's wrong to leave this. Like, I have to make it work. And as far as like finding a soulmate or somebody who catches my drift, or someone who's on the same page, it's not out there. I can make this be the person that I'm with. And anybody can be your soulmate if you both just work toward it. So I worked toward making that happen, and the other person convinced me that they were also working, but there was a cognitive dissonance there because it didn't feel like it. But I have a codependent issue where, I want to support other people. And so, staying in this relationship for so long did caused a lot of trauma on top of the trauma that I already had. And, since leaving that, I realized how codependent I am. I sort of lost my train of thought, but I'm trying to like tie this all together without going into too many, it's just very complex. But
Right.
Trying to please other people that couldn't be pleased is a hard habit to break. And now it's become so painful for me. It's like I recognize, people who are trying to manipulate me or who aren't being true or authentic. Even if they have good motives, it's like they don't really realize that what they're doing is based on their own insecurities. And I understand that. But it's caused me to have to really limit, my support system is very small. But that keeps me safe at the moment. I'm actually, I feel like when we talk about our healing journey, my healing journey has really been mostly in the last 3 years, because all of that was just leading up to the revelation of what was real for me. And then, just integrating it, dealing with it, for the most part.
Right. So you're still in that healing process, it sounds like.
Definitely. Yes, definitely. I mean, every day I have to integrate something that's true that I thought was different.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like I thought I could trust this person. I thought I could just take a person at face value, but it's really, there's a lot more to it, and so I have to, setting boundaries, is not easy for me,
Right.
So that's something that takes courage. It takes a lot of self-love, and it's better to just be upfront and say, okay, this is what I can or can't do for you, rather than saying yes and then backing off and saying, hey, I really shouldn't have said yes. It's like just having the fortitude, the strength of myself to say, speak what I can or can't do, or what is okay or what's not okay. And then, if someone is not going to respect that, to have the place to be able to allow them to be that way, and without judging them. It's like, okay, not everybody is going to be, I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, not everybody's going to be mine, but that's okay. I don't have to, that's probably the hardest part, is because I've been so traumatized that I have to, like, I'm afraid if people have feelings, but I'm now at a place where I'm like, it's okay for people to have feelings. I don't have to change their feelings in order for me to be safe. I'm safe, even if someone is angry. I'm
Right.
safe even if someone, says, no to me or whatever. That's not really, but you know what I mean? Like not
Yeah.
judging
As
anything.
as much, you're welcoming other people's emotions and accepting them as they are instead of having to try to work it out somehow.
Yeah,
So that's what it sounds like to me.
yeah.
But so now you're still in your journey of healing, but it sounds like you're also helping others to heal with what you're doing currently. So let's if you want to talk a little bit about what you do
Well, yeah.
and what you share.
First of all, just by sharing and living,
Mm-hmm.
living authentically,
Right.
instead of trying to be something that I'm not. I'm just learning to accept myself and just to be what I am. And also, I keep a blog. I write, in the beginning when I first had this awakening, I was constantly blogging and putting out, it was a lot of angry posts. It
Mm.
was just expressing my anger. But then they became more reflective and I've become more contemplative and I've tried, well, not even, I've naturally just become more, sharing in a teaching way. I feel like I've always been like a natural teacher, but a teacher that
Mm.
sets by example, not as a, authority, but just
Right.
as a peer, and I'm very candid, I'm very open. And so I keep this blog, which has turned into ebooks. I've written 3 that I've published, and I have 3 others that I'm kind of working on, because as I go through my own journey, I have more realizations that I have to write down and put into a format. I'm also
Right.
writing a paperback book, a book that I'm going to publish about my healing journey. And again, like I said, as I heal myself, less personal information, less storytelling goes into it, and more reflection and more.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, filtering out my personal experience and really just putting in the wisdom that I've gained into a book that people can buy. It's not going to be a big major book, but I want to put it out after, I have been able to work through my feelings, because I have a lot of pain, I have a lot of anger, and
Mm-hmm.
while that has been useful for me, that's not what I want to put in this book. I want to put the wisdom of how I can, what I've gotten from that, the you know the the benefits of it. It's like the kombucha without the SCOBY. That's just how I think. It's like nobody wants a SCOBY unless they're going to make their own. It's like, no, I just want the kombucha.
Right.
And then I have recently created a Patreon, and that's, I've been doing psychic readings and channeling and stuff, and that's also been a real learning experience. But that's not really what I want to do. There's a lot of channels out there, and
Mm-hmm.
mediums and psychics, and even though I have confidence that I can do that, I want to be able to use that telepathy, that the ability to read like that, to help people individually on an
Right.
individual basis. So I've created a Patreon where I'm inviting people to become a community,
Mm-hmm.
where we're all working on this kind of healing, emotional healing, because when you think your world is a certain way and you think the people in it are a certain way, and then you find out everything you've believed is a lie,
Mm-hmm.
the pain of that is excruciating. I can't even describe it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even tell you what it's like to learn that the person you love most in your life is a sociopath and you can't
Right.
trust them anymore. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you shift? So with Patreon, I'm creating a community, and like I said, I just got started, so it's just on its introductory period, but we want to bring people together so that we can have group conversations about these kind of things. And while venting and ranting has its place, we want to also like take that energy and use it to heal. Use it to move forward, so we don't stay stuck in a circling the drain pattern. Where we're just never getting anywhere. We want to, use that energy that our emotions to propel us into a new life. To feel better, because my life today looks completely different. If you look at any of my Facebook photos, I was a middle class, still looked the whatever white mom with
Mm-hmm.
2 kids and a car and a house and a house full of stuff, and I don't have any of that. I left with just my clothes. And
Right.
even those I've gotten rid of. Nothing. Didn't bring anything with me into this new life. And
Mm.
it was scarier than I can even tell you. But now it's like, okay, I have a chance to recreate myself, and once you get over that fear of what's it going to be like to let everything go, then you can start making what you want. It's like this life didn't look what I wanted it to. So
Right.
I changed it, and it took lady balls, and I did it. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a living example so that there's other women out there, especially, men too, but mostly in relation to women, who are like, I'm tired of this. I deserve better. I deserve to have a person in my life who's going to love me and support me, and you know and I can, who can give and receive, because my love wasn't being received, and I certainly wasn't getting it back.
Right.
And I was, when someone told me that love doesn't exist, I was like, all right, we're done. I'm done. That was it. I have no more left for
Right.
this. And it was scary, but it's better now. It was so worth it. It was so
Mm.
worth it.
Well, I applaud your courage and being an authentic person and finding who you are. And Jaybird Jones, you may know her,
Yeah.
and she says love you, Christina. She just put a comment in there. So thanks for tuning in, Jaybird. And so I'll put your information about Patreon in the show notes. And could you let us know how people can get in touch with you if they're interested to know more about you?
Yes, my website is blackswansibyl.com.
Okay.
Black Swan, just like Black Swan, and Sibyl is spelled Sibyl, the like an oracle.
Right. Okay. So I'll put it in the comments right now. blackswansibyl.com. And that's the best way to get your information and to get in touch with you.
Yeah, you can find everything there. I'm also very active on Facebook. I have a Facebook group
Mm-hmm.
where Jessie, Jaybird Jones, is very active and very supportive. And I've created a community of people I've never met before.
Yeah,
All over the world.
that's wonderful.
It is wonderful. I think the internet and social media, whatever you make it to be, I think it's a wonderful place to connect with like-minded individuals and use it to empower each other.
Well, Christina, thank you for the time out of your day to speak about your experience and about self-love. I appreciate it very much, and I wish you the best. And I'll definitely stay in touch. Is there last advice to those who are maybe in the same having the same experience as you are with emotional healing, last words that you'd want to say?
You can be healed
Hmm.
or heard. If you have someone hear you, you can be heard and be healed. It is possible. No matter what it is you suffer from, whether it's a physical, emotional, mental, spiritual ailment. And an ailment is something that just doesn't feel right for you. If it doesn't feel right, it can be made.
Thank you for that. All right, everyone, thanks again for tuning in, and happy Valentine's Day. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.